Hello and welcome to this video on how to paint your 1/48 scale hardened aircraft shelter front doors from Hangar 74 products. In today's video I'm going to try and show you how to make this look something like this. So first of all, I'll show you some of the paints and products we'll be using to do this. So you'll need Tamiya, whether you can see that, that is XF67 NATO green and XF55 deck tan. Also, on the back of the hanger, we've already given a coat of Edding permanent spray rust look, which you can find on most online DIY shops, basically anywhere. We just use that so it gives the back face a bit more of a textured surface to look like, you know, just to give it a texture, so it's better than just smooth, because they just aren't smooth anyway. So to start with, I've given this particular door just a primer, undercoat, basic primer. Then we're going to use NATO green XF67 Tamiya. So as you can see, we've got the base green, NATO green colour now done. May require 2 coats to get a good base coat on your hangar door, but once you've got it there, you know, the whole thing now starts to come alive and take shape. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use Deck Tan XF55 Tamiya colour. And what we're going to do with this, we're going to try and, when you put it on, it looks kind of like a beige colour. But once you put the weather wash on and the weathering powders, which I'll show you next video or next phase, the colour changes to look like concrete, which is really good. So let's get on. Let's get some Deck Tan on the project. I'll try and do this as best as I can so you can see what I'm doing, but what you've got to try and do here is highlight the places where you think the sun would like hit and fade the original metalwork of the hanger. Sorry for the compressor running, but what you got to do is try and bring out that colour where you think everything would be like the sun just attacks the colour. And also try and get your the strokes of the, just so you know, don't do it so it's like a, and just remember that when you're painting these, that like on every single airbase, everyone is different because of where it is and where it sits in relation to the sun, how much shade it gets during the day. You know, everything, there's not a correct or wrong way these should be painted. The only thing I would say is that RAF, Royal Air Force hangar, hardened aircraft shelter doors, unless anyone can show me some material, are usually painted green. And the United States Air Force is usually brown. So you get a good, highlight where we think it'll come. Because once we put the wash on and weathering powders, this all starts to kind of, it looks a bit at the moment like, oh my god, that ain't quite right, but just stick with it. And like I say, there's no right or wrong way. Like so. And that would be about as much as I would do with deck tan on that. So now what I've done in the gun is I've just mixed up a sort of 50-50 mix of the Tamiya NATO green and the deck tan, and done a 50-50 mix. And what we're going to do, we're just going to highlight these areas here with a bit of that, just to add a bit more contrast to the weathering. Add some random, just get that, just so it looks, we try to build up the weathering. Be as random as you can. Like that. Don't know whether you can see that on the camera, but that's what we're aiming to sort of get to. This sort of mottled, weathered look. So on to the back of the hangar door, and we're going to paint it grey. And the colour I'm going to use is the extra colour from Hannon's RAF Dark Sea Grey. So now we come to painting the weight boxes, the 3 weight boxes. There's 3 per side, and you'll get these in the kit when you buy it. So basically what I'll do with these, they just get a coat basically of deck tan, the Tamiya XF55 deck tan. That's all we do, and I'll show you. Yet again, they'll look beige when you paint them this deck tan, but as soon as you put the weather wash, it turns into this concrete looking colour. So it's pretty good. So now we're going to move on to weathering the doors. So as you can see, I've put the 3 weight boxes on the model just by you know, your old faithful super glue. We'll put them on for you. And then we're going to use Florey's Models Dark Dirt Weather Wash. So we're going to not coat the whole door with it, but you know, try and use the brush to make the weathering look as it should have already, without, you know, doing the whole wipe it all off kind of what you usually would do. If it doesn't look right, then we'll just get the you know, we'll wipe it off, technique, and then we'll try and make it a bit better. But you know, as I say, and I keep saying it and can't stress it enough with these doors, they're all different. They're all on different parts of the airfield. They're all on different air bases, different colours, different weathering to where they are in and around the airbase. So let's get some weathering on it. Down the main front paneling of the doors, I would stick the weathering wash to just around these edge parts and from the top, because obviously when it rains, that's what it does. We just keep working that down, and then what we'll do, we'll get a cotton bud and clean that up. Just make it as random as you can, really, random as you like. Almost dry brush some of this weather and wash on. Almost dry brush it around all these steel girders, and put it on, you know, go thicker in other places. You know, it's just no, the more random it is, I think personal preference is that the better it actually looks. Down these edges of these panels again. You know, that's, you know, and I don't, no disrespect to the Air Forces, but I don't think they clean them particularly as their priority. So the dirt is, you know, get into the corners, get into the, this is where all the algae and the dirt build-up will be. Try and dry brush the effect on the actual ironwork on the front. We'll come to those in a minute, the weight boxes. Plenty on the crossover tying up. You know, a bit more on that one, makes it a little bit more different, a little bit of a standout feature from the others. You know, get into these corners, you know, like this, get into these corners. As I say, dry brush in here, keep the brush moving. You can use any weather wash you like, you know, it's not just Flores, that's just my personal preference. I'm sure there's lots of different weather washers available on the market, but that's just my personal preference. You know, let's do all this section on this one, you know, make it a bit different. More darker in there and there, and try and blend it in a bit more. You know, put a bit more dirt in this bit here. We'll have a big, you know, run down there from the runoff. So the wash is dry. Handful of the old Modeller's Faithful cotton bud. And start working your wash and blending in. Keep working it. Keep at it. And remember to go the way that rain and bad weather will, you know, hit these doors. Already, look at that. Look at that top bit. A bit more work. Bit more work in there. That's good. Here, get in there again with your bud. Bit dampen the bud, and just blend it all in. Like this. Keep at it and you'll blend it in. Blend it in like this. And yet again, that'll give you differentials in colours. Don't panic at this stage thinking, oh my god, I've lost the model, it's going to be a disaster. It's not going to happen. You can't, as I keep stressing, you can't get it wrong. There's no right, there's no wrong. Like this. Get in all them places and just blend it in. That's all you got to do, just blend it. Don't, you haven't got to clean it right off. You just make it so it's just a little bit of blend in, and then once we go over it with the weathering powders, it'll just do the job. Yeah, it does look a mess. Yeah, it does look like, yeah. But remember, it stood out on that airfield to the elements and probably never ever been cleaned. After all, they are supposed to be a little bit more camouflage with the surroundings. Yet again, if it's got stuff on the front you got to clear up, just, you know, get it blended in, and then just add some streaks to get that, tidy it up. Really good, that from Flores, that wash. I can't recommend that enough. Use it on my aircraft as well as this project. Just enough to take your brush lines away on the weathering. Just bear that in mind. A few more lines there, like in here. Just take them lines, just take the lines away. A little rub in there, put that in there. Down there. Just to make sure we've not got no definitive lines. That's what we want, just no real definite lines. here. There you go, so it's looking weathered now. See a few more bits on the front that need tidying up on the metal steel work here. This is what you don't want, big, you know, where you can see you've been with the wash. Tidy up there. And then just a quick tidy up over your weight boxes.
Go around, just tidy them up, however you want them.
And look how I said the deck tan would change from this beige random colour to like a nice concrete steely weathered colour. So there we have it, like that. It's coming on. So let's get some weathering powder on it. So here we go with the weathering powders. So the weathering powders, all I've done is bought a chalk pastel set from like Hobbycraft for like £10 and just put them in bags, smashed them up with a hammer, crushed them, and you know, they're just as good, just as good. So get in there with your brush, get plenty on your brush, lay it flat and work it in. Work the powder, keep working like that. Move some of it down and then bring it up like that. And there. Try not to get too much on your front. Your front metal work, steel work is done. As far as I'm concerned, that is as good as you really want to go with that. That is on the money. So there you go. There's a section done, if you can see that, with weathering powder. And that is just bought from Hobbycraft. A whole set for like £10 of normal pastels. Yet again, same thing with, as always with this. Be as random as you like. Be as random as you like with any of it. Just try and keep the brush, the final, you know, the final brushing on of the powders, work it the same way as we said with the weathering wash. Same way as what, you know, just think what way would rain run down these doors. That's all you got to keep rethinking to yourselves. So in this I'm just using a brown. I'll use a little bit of green in a minute and I'll show you the green. And what I'll do with the green is you just keep to these sections, because that's where the algae, that's where all, you know, the dirt, muck, whatever you want to call it, builds up, and that's effectively, once it comes wet, the algae starts growing. So just this last little section. Like so. Put a little bit more on these two. Down there. rub that in a bit more, carry a bit over here. Like so. Keep working it. Like so. That's how it'll be. Don't know whether you'll see that on the camera clear enough, but you should be able to, hopefully. So that's as much as I'll go with the brown. That is it. So what we'll do next, we'll change colour. And somewhere should have some grey. So here's a bit of a grey. So we'll do a bit of grey. I don't bother cleaning the brush or nothing, because you know you're looking for that randomness of colours. Grey. Get the grey in there. And then streak it down. Like that. A bit more grey in this one. Bit of grey there. Bit of grey here like this. Keep it moving on your brush, the grey, keep it moving and work it into that where we've been weathering already. Keep it working, and remember, keep the strokes of the brush, and that's difficult with all this ironwork, as you can see. Keep the brushing of the strokes of the brush from the top to the bottom. Yeah, it's coming on. It's good. Looking good. You know, if you want to put some randomness on it, put some chalk across the front. But my personal opinion is leave the ironwork now. Last one I would do now is I'll show you. I'm now going to put green in these edges where I've weathered more than I did on the main pieces of those sections. Using quite a bright green, as you can see, but once you start working it in, it does start to tend to look like, you know, moss, algae growing up the front of the aircraft. So don't go into the middle of the section, you know, go down there, plenty down the bottom there, look, get in them bottom bits. Yet again, random as you like. Random. Just keep it random. You know, these will just provide you with a perfect backdrop, and bring your model to life. Yeah. Try and keep to them edges. I stress, keep trying to get down these sides. Down there. Because that's where the algae sits. That's where it'll be growing, in these damp corners of these metal sections. pictures again. And here, down at the bottom. So here they are together, the one I showed you earlier, to make into this, and hopefully you can see that there. There they are, the 148 Hangar 74 products, hardened aircraft shelter doors. Now, as a modeler for years, I think we've all been waiting for these to come out so we can actually put our models in front of them to set our models into reality. Thanks for watching my video. Remember, I'm not a pro modeler, so please be gentle with me with your comments if you've got any. And there's no right or wrong answer to how you paint them. And, you know, just make them what you want. I mean, remember, the United States Air Force are usually brown. Royal Air Force are usually painted in green. Just do a bit of research, guys, on your, you know, where your aircraft is from, which airbase is from. I'm sure you'll find plenty of reference material, and I'm sure at Hangar 74 we're going to put some reference photos and material for, you know, you guys to have a look and see which aircraft and air station or air base you'd like to make these look like. So thanks again for watching the video, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks.